Today we're going to do a product review. Spoiler alert. There's what I think of them. So then we'll put our mouth where our money is and make our own version of them.
Hi, and welcome to Yeti at Large. This is a channel focused on making the most out of what you have, no matter where you're at. Thanks for tuning in and helping out.
Now I want to be perfectly clear what the specific nature of my criticism of this product is. And since this counts as a product review, this is fair game. And if any representative from this corporation wants to address some of the complaints that I have, I'm more than welcome to have that conversation with you. The fact that the number of lawsuits for false and misleading claims, and I'm not even going to focus on the fact that Mr. Kellogg originally got into food manufacturing trying to find a more wholesome vegetarian diet for his patients at the sanitarium to eat because he was very motivated by proper nutrition. This product uses bioengineered food ingredients, which the only bioengineering for my food that I'm in favor of is what Gregory Mendel did, manipulating the peas by selective breeding. You talk about wholesome food. This is one of the most highly refined products that you can find between the flour, the sweeteners, the salts, and the colors. Those are my four big no-nos. Avoid highly modified flour. Avoid highly modified sugars. Avoid highly modified salts. And avoid food coloring. This product contains red number 40, yellow number 6, blue number 1. The flour is highly processed. Salts, high fructose corn syrup, dextrose. These are all things your body just doesn't need. Those two things, the fact that this product is strayed from its founder's intention and it's a wildly unhealthy product, my complaint is they're just not delicious. They're a bad pastry. So let's start by dissecting these a little bit. We'll only pick on the strawberry because this claims to have strawberry in it. Contains 2% or less. Now obviously the food coloring is a very small amount. And it says it has dried strawberries, dried pears, dried apples. Those are one of the most common fruit ingredients to stretch fruits to get the mileage out of there to make it affordable. But 2% or less, we're talking a product they claim weighs 3.3 ounces. But it doesn't tell you specifically how much. It just says contains 2% or less. The even arm balance scale. Let's go to 3¼ ounces, which is slightly less than the advertised 3.3 ounces. I haven't opened the package. This hasn't been manipulated in any way. So that is balancing right in the middle. We're going to open this package and we're going to do it in the most honest method possible. Let's turn it over. And right off the bat, is icing that expensive that you can only afford to cover barely half of the top of the pastry? These holes are punched in it to stop it from lifting and air bubbles allow them to escape. Look at how thin that's become. So this may seem unfair to you, Pop-Tarts, but I'll let you in on a secret. The whole world hates unfrosted section, so that's got to go. And you may say that that's unfair, that I'm not going to weigh that, but that's the reality of how people consume your product. And let's toast it. You got to be careful toasting these now because they just incinerate. Like I said, these things incinerate in the blink of an eye. And I was trained by a French pastry chef named Pierre, no joke, so I don't mind a little color on my stuff. Let's weigh the finished product, and we're even going to set another paper towel on the other side to offset. We're going to call the final consumable weight exactly 2.5 ounces per packet. That is 0.8 of an ounce different than what they claim. And yeah, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to eat these Pop-Tarts. And we're going to come up with an honest taste test. Now you got to make sure these have cooled, because that filling will turn into plasma and burn your mouth like something fierce. Now the filling's a little bit thicker in the center. I don't get any kind of aroma off of it other than starch or uncooked flour. Well, here we go. Toasting the pastry helps it tremendously. I get no strawberry flavor at all. Just the jelly texture, and you eat with your eyes first. I remember in culinary school, I did an experiment where I served people clear cherry flavored water, and I served people red water with just food coloring in it. And almost exclusively, everybody said the red water tasted more like cherry than the clear water with the actual cherry flavoring. Until I blindfolded them, and then 100% of everyone got it right. Now, I'm a Gen Xer. I, like you, grew up eating these. The Pop-Tarts I ate as a kid were very different. I'll argue they're much larger, probably had different ingredients, less GMOs. These leave a film in the inside of your mouth. They're pasty. Again, no strawberry flavor. I don't want to sound like a sugar fiend, but the icing is the best part of it. Now, one thing Pop-Tart does correct is they obey the rule of threes. 3 shapes, 3 textures. You have the dough, the icing, and the filling. 3 directions, 3 colors. That's why they're so disciplined with decorating and garnishing with the icing. So yeah, they adhere to those, and that's part of why we're nostalgic and these things sell so well. I give it a C-. It doesn't remind me of French pâte sucre, sugar dough. It's not delicious. At this point, I'm eating it because I want to put my mouth where my money is, and I said I would, but it's not enjoyable. This is not a treat. So, I've ripped on your product. Let's see how I can do. And not for the same price point, though. I know I can't compete with your price point. I won't even try. Maybe that's unfair, too. Now, we are going to have some things in common. 2 of the products I really love to work with for thickening and stabilizing products is xanthan gum. If you're not familiar with this, it's an amazing product. And citric acid. This is a phenomenal product. If you enjoy any sour candy, that coating that looks like sugar on the outside has a large percentage of citric acid. This is great for adjusting the pH and making things, it works as a good preservative. I'm a big fan of these 2 products. Our fruit filling is going to be made from fresh raspberries, fresh cranberries, dried organic cherries, and then I'm going to jumpstart my process with a little bit of this Simply Fruit. Now, the reason I selected this one specifically, and I will tell you, don't try to bake with jam, marmalade, or jelly. It's all water and sugar, and it will boil over everywhere in the oven and make a horrible mess. What I plan on doing is reconstituting those cherries, adding the cranberries and the raspberries, reducing the liquid down. I'll stabilize it with the xanthan gum, add some citric acid to preserve the color and get the pH where I want it, and then I'm going to add this product. It is made of fruit syrup, red raspberries, lemon juice, fruit pectin, and red grape juice concentrate for color and natural flavors. And again, that grape juice is a great way to stretch very expensive products. But this is what our filling is going to be made out of. This would be far too expensive for you guys to sell and manufacture en masse.
Let's start by building our filling. A little bit of filtered water, dried cherries, fresh raspberries, and frozen fresh cranberries. We'll boil those only long enough for them to reconstitute. I'm going to add that citric acid now to help preserve and protect the color. Soon as it's boiled down enough, I'll pulse it in the food processor and then run it through a fine mesh strainer. Be patient and take your time with this part of the process. It's easy to lose a lot of the material, and it's kind of wasteful to separate the seeds, but it makes a much better pastry. Once I have the fruit rendered, pureed, and strained, I'm going to add this Simply Fruit to jumpstart the mix that I spoke about earlier because it has pectin in it and some of the other qualities I'm looking for. I'll whip this in with a tiny whisk till it's fully incorporated. It's still very warm. And then I'm going to start sifting in the xanthan gum. And I also decided to add a little bit of tapioca starch here to thicken it up. Tapioca starch is like cornstarch, but a much better quality product for fine confections. I don't feel the need to dissolve it in water and put it in this first because I'm confident with how warm the fruit mix is that it will fully dissolve. I've cooked it and I got a good thickness where I want, and the flavor is very strong, very good.
So I'm going to put it back in that glass bowl and cover it tightly so that it doesn't form any kind of a skin, and put it in the refrigerator. Here's the almond shortbread that I'm going to use for our pastry. You can refer back to an earlier video we did up with the Palisades peach tart for a complete build on this dough. But just know basically that it's the creaming method, and you don't want to over mix it terribly. Let's shift gears now to the dough. I'm going to use some leftover almond shortbread that I had in the freezer from our Palisade peach tart. Cold dough in a block like this is going to require a little force to get it into shape. Notice how I'm not afraid to use the rolling pin like a hammer on my sturdy teakwood table, and I also use the edge of the pin to create a rectangle shape that I think will best fit the cutters that I'm going to use. I'm anticipating making 6 tarts, and I want the portion size to be doable, not too small, not too big. So I'll go ahead and cut out the base of those tarts. And then you see I'm going to do a classic French pastry style where I create a ring to hold in the fruit filling. The thing is, this tart is classically known as a Linzer tart. And they typically have a raspberry or an apricot fruit filling. And they'll use hazelnuts or almonds, lots of different varieties. So Pop-Tart's nothing new under the sun. Matter of fact, it's one of the most popular pastries in history. You can see my dough is getting a little warm here, so these rings are really being a pain in the butt. But I moved quick after putting my first coat of egg wash on the dough so that I had a little room to adjust. I'm going to take one of those rings and cut out some small decorative dots just because that's what I want to do. I could have made a rectangle pastry and tried to make it look exactly like the Pop-Tart, but I didn't want to do that. That's the beauty of food. You can express yourself any way you feel fit. I'm going to take the 5 leftover centerpieces, and instead of re-rolling them and saving them, I'm going to go ahead and form them up in what I call these little sunburst tarts, and I'll bake those off and set them aside separately. I'll have an event coming up soon where I can take a little pastry cream and some fresh berries and clear glaze and make some little fresh fruit tarts to throw on the table. It'll make it look like I did a ton of work, but all I'm really doing is leveraging my resources. I've got a small plain round tip, and I'm working on carefully piping the exact amount of filling I want in these tarts. I made this filling very thick with the intent of it not moving much while it's in the oven, and it's actually a fairly low sugar filling compared to a lot of other things you'll find. Sugar is not a flavor. Let the food be the flavor, and let things like sugar and salt, fat and acid augment those flavors. So there's my finished tarts. I'm going to give the pan a pretty aggressive tap on the table to flatten that out a little bit. But I think they're gorgeous. Gorgeous? I think they're adorable. They're gorgeous. Gorgeous. In the oven at 350 for 20 minutes. Those sun tarts are going to go on the bottom rack, and they have less mass, so they'll come out at about 10 minutes. I spun the pan at 20 minutes and gave them 10 more minutes at 350. And look at how smooth the top of the tart is. Got a beautiful tan color. I use my offset spatula to look at the bottom.
Let's take a little butter and a little whole milk, and let's make some fondant icing to cover these.
So this is just white string icing. Start with what looks like a lot of sugar and add your hot milk and butter in on top. A little bit of liquid goes a long way in this. Because I used whole milk and added butter, this icing will never entirely set up to be brittle like some of the fancier sugar cookies you've seen. But I wanted a in-between icing where it had a little give, but yet it was very stable. I could probably put these in the toaster and toast them like a Pop-Tart after the fact, but I don't have to. So I want that icing to have the right bite, the right feel. Now it looks like it's thick here, but it's losing temperature, so I'm going to put it back on the double boiler. I want a firm icing when it's dry.
I'll let that set up for just a second, and I'll see what I'm dealing with.
Test it out really well, so I'm going to mix it up real good, make sure I don't have any dry spots that are going to impede the bag.
And if this was commercial food service manufacturing, I'd have a temperature-controlled applicator that would recover
and these would flow underneath in a continuous conveyor belt. Hold it like a snow cone. Set it on a towel to stop it from dripping. Pour a decent amount in the bag, not too much. A figure 8 to stop it from backing out. And a nice seal. The line of the bag up the back so that it stays tight. Let's see if our snip is enough. Food manufacturing process. And there they are. I think they're gorgeous. I think I like the shape, the different colors and textures. This is what a Pop-Tart really wants to be in its soul. I am very excited for this. Right off the bat, I can smell almonds and butter. I can smell tart fruit. The fruit comes through amazingly. Ah. It's tart and it pops, and that's my version. I mean no disrespect to anybody out there. Sometimes it's not about right or wrong. Sometimes it's just about better and best. I hope you can see that.